Hey everyone, welcome to a new video on Berserk, yet again, second week in a row. Today I wanted to do something a little more chill than I did last week. Last week's one was took so long to make. It was just so much analysis on one arc. So I wanted to do something a bit more chill and make a video that I've actually been interested in doing ever since I started reading the manga. And that video is the top 10 most disturbing / what the fuck moments that happen in the Berserk manga. Now, if you watched the last video, you might have noticed that I'm actually using a face cam this time as opposed to, just being a voice. The reason is for a lot of these things, I can't actually show the panels. I'll show as much as I can, of course, but I really can't show everything or else I'd have to censor half of the panels basically. And first I want to mention that I don't have the eclipse anywhere on this list because first of all, that goes over a million different chapters. So it's not really just a moment. It's more like a sequence of events. And second of all, it's very obvious that that's the most disturbing moment. I mean, literally who would not pick that? It's just so gross and visceral and also emotionally damaging really. So that it seems like a pretty obvious pick. So that's why I'm not going to put it on the list at all. So at number 10, I put the, adult fun times in the conviction arc. This is definitely one that I can't really show the panels for because there's lots of nudity obviously, and probably this one is a lot more of a what the fuck moment than something that's actually disturbing. It was a bit disturbing, kind of seeing this whole mass of people doing all this stuff and kind of them being hysterical. It seemed like there was sort of a drug that they were inhaling as they were doing all this stuff. But then also the guy who gets introduced to this, to be honest, I don't remember his name. I think he was hooking up with that Nina girl. Is that her name? But the guy who got introduced to all this stuff, it felt like we were experiencing it from his perspective and it was very jarring. It seemed like he was really disturbed. So maybe for some readers that could kind of affect them as well. He also had to, kiss that the scepter of the goat dude, so I wouldn't want to do that personally. So yeah, this wasn't really a huge disturbing moment, but it was just really it was kind of gross, and I was just looking at it why am I reading this? Why is this happening? And if this was all of the conviction arc, I wouldn't have been interested, but of course it's a lot deeper and more interesting than that. So number 9 is basically everything that has to do with Farnese before she becomes a magic lady and the protector of Casca. She starts whipping Guts, which is the second time that he's been whipped in the manga for some reason, because he got whipped in the first chapter. And then she goes home or goes into her tent or whatever when he's locked up, and she starts having fun and whips herself. Why, dude? Why does that happen? So yeah, this is just more of a weird moment, and I like that Farnese is relatively sane now, although I've seen a lot of people kind of questioning why we've forgiven her as a viewer base, but maybe I'll make a separate video on that another time. So number 8 for me, the way that I wrote it in my notes was Guts killing 5 million children in the Lost Children arc. So I think 5 million is a little bit of an overestimation, but just that whole sort of sequence of events with Rosine, their fight was very disturbing because it showed how unhinged Guts was. Of course, we saw that a bit in the Black Swordsman arc and a little bit later in the Conviction arc, but just the way that he kind of just throws away any thoughts of these children and just gets rid of them immediately because he sees that they're becoming pseudo-apostles, it's just really disturbing, and it's a really strange light to see Guts in. And also the fact that we can really empathize with Rosine in a way, because she's a kid really, and she's humanized by Miura. It just makes it really sad in a way as well, and maybe a bit more sad than disturbing. At number 7, I put Guts's experience with Donovan. This one was just really sad. It was disturbing, but it was also just really sad because we get this backstory for Guts, who's a character that all of us really empathize with, at least I think most of us do. Yeah, it's just really sad just seeing a kid being put in this position. It's just terrible, and especially the fact that his father figure sold him out. I mean, that's just something that no one should have to deal with. At number 6, I just wrote the horse in all caps. I don't think I need to explain this one. It's just so weird. I don't even know if it's disturbing. I don't think I was disturbed when I read this part. I just kind of looked at the page and I was like, why is this happening right now? Farnese didn't have a shirt for 4 chapters or something like that. And I was like, that's kind of weird, but this part is just so strange. Why was it even put in? I mean, I wasn't crazy disturbed by it, but I think it's less disturbing because everybody kind of makes it into a meme. There are some other things that happen where they're just so sad and disturbing that you can't really make memes about them, but this is just so ridiculous and over the top that you kind of can't help it. And the one thing that makes this a bit more jarring in my opinion is the fact that Guts remembers the eclipse in the middle of this when he sees Farnese in this position and he just immediately springs into action. It shows really how traumatized he was. But yeah, that one's just more ridiculous and over the top than anything else. At number 5, I have Mozgus's torture chamber. This is also kind of like the way he treats everybody. That's also a disturbing aspect of him, and just his character in general. He's so fucking weird. And again, this is kind of a recurring theme in this list, but the reason this is really disturbing to me is because it's so close to reality. I mean, people really were tortured in these brutal ways in the medieval ages, especially for things that they either didn't do or were accused of for some crazy reason, like religious fanaticism. And I think what's most disturbing is how delusional Mozgus is. The fact that he thinks he's actually doing something good for God doing all this stuff. It's just crazy. And if I remember correctly, it seemed like Farnese kind of got into it in the middle of that, which maybe adds a bit to her entry on this list, but just the situation was very, very strange and disturbing in general. At number 4, the troll babies. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you need to read through that whole section with the trolls again, because this is just disgusting. It was so gross. I thought the trolls in general were very gross. I mean, kind of the fact that they were doing all these things to women, which I did not expect. That was so weird. And it's one of those sequences that, you know, I think Berserk is amazing, but it's definitely not perfect. And I think that was something that definitely could have been taken out of this part of the story. And just when these things are born, it's just, I don't even think I can show the panels. It's just so gross. If you want to look it up, you can look it up, but I don't think you should. It was disturbing, but I think mostly it was just really, really gross. And that's what I did not like about it. And at number 3, I have one that is disturbing but also just very, very sad, and that was Guts's attempt to have times with Casca right at the beginning of the Millennium Empire arc. This was mostly just sad, kind of a what the fuck moment. Like, why did this have to happen? Well, I know why it had to happen, because you kind of show how far Guts has fallen and how he can't really do things by himself anymore. He needs this party and he needs to learn to trust and care for people again. But it's just really tough to read through this, especially after what Casca's gone through and also what Guts has gone through. It is disturbing, especially some of the imagery with his like darker side kind of showing images in his mind, or at least that's what I think Amira was trying to show us. But it was also just really sad. This is just a tough moment to read through. And at number 2, I have, of course, the adult attack from the Lost Children chapter. So if you don't remember this, basically, like, the children start playing war with each other, and very quickly we realize that they're actually hurting each other and maiming each other, and in a lot of cases actually killing each other. And one pseudo-apostle in particular performs in what they call an adult attack with their stinger, and it's just disgusting, you know, visually, conceptually, just in the moment with all these crazy things happen, just seeing someone like that on the top of it, it was just so disturbing. And it was honestly unexpected. I didn't think that the kids were like in a good spot right then. Like, I knew that they were disturbed because they were pseudo apostles, but I did not expect them to go that far. And I honestly think that this is more disturbing than most of the times where we see apostles and pseudo apostles try to do this to a human woman, because the thing is, they're kids, right? And what they're doing, it seems like they're just trying to emulate what they see adults do. And it's really unfortunate, because it's another thing that's realistic. This was definitely the second most disturbing moment in my opinion. And kind of when I just saw this on the page, I was just grossed out. I just didn't want to read anymore for that moment. I came back the next day, but man, I was grossed out by that. If you've read Berserk, then you probably know what my number 1 is, unless you forgot the Golden Age. It has to be when the Midland King tries to have fun with Charlotte, who is his own daughter. I remember my reaction, like verbatim. Basically, I was reading it. I looked at the panel where he, let's just say his tongue is leaving his mouth, and I literally went like, ah, like I was so grossed out. And again, this is another one that's just, it's really sad, because it's something that could happen in real life, and I'm sure it has happened, unfortunately, and it's just terrible, you know, treating your own kid like that. Could you imagine just being such a terrible parent? It's disgusting. And I think what makes it more sad to me is kind of this idea that Charlotte really doesn't have anyone who has truly loved her for who she is. You know, Griffith seems to be using her pretty much all the time. I don't think that Griffith has any strong romantic feelings towards her. And then her own father has these disgusting thoughts about her. It's just so sad and disturbing, and just reading the panels, it just grossed me out so much, the fact that this situation was happening in front of me. All right, so that was my top 10 list of the most disturbing moments in Berserk. It's a fun video to make, ironically. Comment letting me know if there's anything I missed. I'm sure there's something that I missed because it's been a little while since I actually read through everything. And yeah, I hope everyone has a good day, and I will see you for the next video next week. See ya.